person talking about love, thine brother is the preacher. And it seems nobody's interested in learning but the teacher.
Hey, Chalk Talkers, welcome back. We are here with Chalk Talk episode 2. Today we're going to be talking about different federations and things like that. Before we get started, I want to start off by thanking a few sponsors that we have, starting with Slingshot at howmuchyoubench.net. Slingshot, you can get the protein that they have here and the gangster wraps. You can get the original Slingshot made so you can bench heavy with less pain. Also, Drink Viso at drinkviso.com right here. Great energy drink, local company, great product. My favorite is Vigor. Check it out. Organic lemon, lime, and strawberry juices. Good
Did
stuff.
you say Vigor?
He did.
Vigor, that's what it's
You
called.
racist son of a
Wow.
bitch.
That was pretty close.
Does this make you a vigor lover?
I am a Vigor lover. I'll say that.
Thank you.
And
Maybe
also,
just spell that next time.
Vigor.
also go to sportsnutritioncenter.com. No matter what supplements you take, they have the nutrition products that you need. Also, then there's Inner Beast CrossFit. Gym out in Oregon City. Good spot to go. Check them out, innerbeastcrossfit.com. And we also have Savage Strength and Conditioning.
It's our lovely studio.
Lovely studio that's hosting us. Register on their website at savagegym.com for a free consultation. And then also Alpha Project, where you can get your Larson's Press t-shirt or become an alpha with their own bench training ebook at alphaprojecttraining.com. All right, today's going to be a great episode. Enjoy.
Well, let's get to work here.
All right.
I think the topic of today, we're going to talk about federations. And maybe not just specifically powerlifting, but we'll maybe kind of hammer out a couple of different sports, like CrossFit. They only have like one game, right?
Yeah.
One that matters. Strongman, there's only one federation that matters. And that doesn't stop people from still putting on competitions,
Right.
but they don't matter, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're just for fun, non-sanctioned meets. Powerlifting's a little different. I guess I have the question of why is it different? At what point did it become a good idea to start up 67 different federations and kind of split everybody up? So maybe that's when we talk about first is where did powerlifting go wrong?
Well, I think that part of it is that you have so many different federations because of the different rules for different federations. There's not like a set of guidelines. If you're in this federation, you can use 3 meter knee wraps. In this federation, you can't use knee wraps at all. In this federation, if you're raw, you can use knee sleeves. In this federation, if you're raw, you can't even use knee sleeves. And I think that one of the things that's a big problem is you just need to have a standard across the board of this is what we're going to address. This is how your gear is going to look. This is what raw is. This is what raw classic is, or whatever. Just one standard across the whole board that everybody uses.
So why is it so complicated?
Well, and I think it's complicated because of the whole thing of, especially when you started to add in the gear and getting into geared powerlifting, it just got so complicated because it's like, well, in this federation, you can go ahead and use multiply. In this federation, you can only use single ply. In this federation, we want you to go ahead and use the 3 meter knee wrap so you can squat, a lot more weight with a longer knee wrap, or we're going to use only the 2 meter knee wraps because we want to see what you're really capable of with the smaller knee wrap, or we want to see what you're really capable of, no knee wraps, you can use the sleeves. And I think that it just became so complicated because everybody has their kind of different preferences, and then it was just like, oh, I don't like how this federation does it, so I'm going to go start my own federation.
Mm-hmm.
So I know when I first started, Wabdal was like the main powerlifting federation, at least for me, but it was only for geared lifters, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it was just a push-pull, which didn't really matter to me because I was obviously a bench-only guy. But something that I find interesting is, back when I first started, there'd be like a competition in Corvallis, there'd be a competition in like Bend, there'd be one in Portland, and then that's it, right? There's no more competitions around Oregon. Now that's changed, right? Now, once a month you could do a competition within a 3-hour drive if you chose to do so. So is this people looking at an opportunity just to make money, or is this more of like, hey, I firmly believe this is the best federation and that's why they started? You
I think a
know?
lot of it has to come down to money because I mean, if you look back, even when gear was more popular, a lot of that branch off happened around the time where so and so has their brand of gear, and so now they're trying to plug that, and then that person has a falling out with this person about money, and so now they're like, "Fuck you! I'm going to start my own federation. Now I'm only going to allow my buddies' gear to be used." I mean, that's still happening now.
And I think you're right, and I think that's the big thing of why you start to have the separation is because it's like, well, I know that this guy only uses this kind of gear, so we're not going to allow that gear in my federation.
Yeah. Well, that's the problem, though, and I think it's going to be exactly that kind of thing that keeps powerlifting in that fringe sport type of category. Because if you look at every other sport, and I'm not by any means a freaking sports professional, but of all the sports that I've failed at in the past, there's at least some kind of organization and progression. So, baseball, t-ball as a kid, you go, you play high school, you play, college, you can play, semi-pro or whatever they call it. Minor leagues, there we go. You play minor leagues, you get picked up and you play major leagues, and there is one pyramid that you kind of progress up to till you are a professional baseball player. Same thing with football, same thing with, I don't know, water polo, since apparently you, last week you played water polo. But we don't have that same progression in powerlifting. It's like, okay, I'm going to do my very first powerlifting meet. Oh, look, I'm lifting right next to all-time world record that's happening right now. And there's no difference between us in any kind of classification other than one person lifts more than the other person. And I think that makes it really difficult for anyone to take the sport seriously when you can't really go, here's the cream of the crop, or directly compare them, or even get them competing against each other on the same stage unless it's, some event like GPA Worlds where people are flying halfway across the world to do that. You don't ever get to see the best of the best go against each other like you do in all the other professional sports.
Right.
It'd be weird. It'd be like if Magic Johnson ran into Larry Bird and was like, you know what? Forget this. I'm going to start my own basketball league.
Yeah.
You kind of lose a lot of that entertainment and the top of the top. They did that with, you guys keep saying federation, so I think of the WWF. And I remember back in the day, the WWF was a big thing, but they also had the WCW, and Hulk Hogan was flopping back and forth.
Yeah.
But the WCW always sucked. Everybody knew that. It was always going to come back to the WWF.
It's WWE.
Or WWE now, excuse me. But it was money stuff that split them up, and then fans are the ones that miss out because we have to, spend money to go to two different things to see our two favorite lifters or our two favorite wrestlers or whatever it is. It's just wasting people's time.
Well, on a side note here with like people not competing against each other that are kind of the best of the best, a little bit of that falls on the lifter, right?
Right.
Yeah,
The lifter should look at it and go, me personally, I want to bench against some of the best lifters. I don't want to just do a competition that might be in my own gym and then call it good, right? I want to go out and I want to compete against different guys, and even though your numbers are your numbers, right? I could bench 560 one day, somebody could bench 570 the next week, and technically they're stronger than me.
Yeah.
That's just the way that is. So it's a little unique in that aspect, but some of this blame kind of falls on the lifters.
I think it does. I think a lot of it comes down to ego, too. I mean, it's real easy to kind of run from other lifters by staying in a different federation. And when we've got so much discord amongst the sport, you've got so-and-so who set their all-time record in 3 meter knee wraps in this federation, who's never going to go against this person who had to set another record, but they're only wearing 2.5 meter knee wraps. And this person can have their thumb loop on, which personally gives me about 20 pounds on my bench. And this person can wear, this brand of singlet. I don't even know why I looked at you.
I don't know why you looked at me either.
I'm going to look at you for thumb loop jokes.
Again, I almost dropped 135 on my chest. You're looking at me.
You should have had the thumb loop on.
Well, so kind of what I guess I'm failing to understand is, at what spot do you say we have enough all-time records? So we have an all-time record for a guy multiply. We got a single ply all-time record. We have a raw record, but then we have 2 millimeter record.
Right.
Like, at what spot is it embarrassing to say, hey, what's your max? Well, in my double ply Inzer, it's this. In my single ply Titan, it's this. In raw, it's this. But when I use wraps, it's this. And when I use sleeves, it's this. Like, how embarrassing is that to have to spend 20 minutes explaining
what your max
is when...
Well, especially if you're trying to do it to somebody who doesn't know anything about the sport and doesn't know what half that shit is anyways.
Oh, yeah.
So a lot of people don't know what gear is. You say
Right.
geared lifter, well, what the hell is
Yeah.
What is geared lifting? What
I was thinking steroids.
Yeah.
Well, so what about, like, how did strongman do it right? Like imagine me walking into the strongman area and saying, cool, hey, I'm starting my own federation called the Larson Press, and this is what it's gonna be.
It's gonna be.
We're gonna bench Atlas stones.
Yeah.
and I'm gonna make this as big as the NAS.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, I think that's what the progression thing that like NAS did a good job of having. NAS stands for North American Strongman, which is the big sanctioning body, the sole sanctioning body for strongman, amateur strongman in America. There's a couple new federations that have started popping up, but it's still North American Strongman is what everybody knows. And the big thing they did is doing that, like you're talking about, the progression. You have the North American Strongman. If you go to a local meet that's sanctioned by North American Strongman, you're going to place in that North American Strongman. If you place high enough, you qualify to go to nationals. Then you go to that national level meet, and if you're in like the top 15 of the national level meet in your weight class, then you can qualify to go to the Arnold and compete in the world amateur for the worlds. If you win the nationals, then okay, now I'm a pro. Now I'm going to work for the American Strongman Corporation. Kind of go around and do professional meets, work for the American Strongest Man. Go to like the bigger, more pro contests. Eventually, go to World's Strongest Man. Things like that. And that's where I think they did it right. Is exactly what Jaron was talking about that progression level. There was an actual like clear progression level of okay, I'm on this level right now. To get to the next level, I need to be doing this. And this is how I need to progress to get to that next level. Where in powerlifting, it's just that thing of like everybody has their own federation. So there's no clear kind of progression of like, you can go to the IPL worlds, or you can go to, the worlds over here, you can go to these worlds over here, and these worlds over here, and that world's over there, and then you can go to worlds over here. Well, which one's the world's championship?
So do you think that that's something is that just a purely American thing? Like, does that happen with a lot of the European lifters? I'm not as familiar with how everything is set up over there.
No, over there's two federations, and these guys hate each other, right? These two dudes really hate each other, but they work really closely together to put on some of the best meets, to have the best lifters there, and here, what do we have, like 67, 68 federations in powerlifting?
So I wonder then if a lot of that comes down to how long the sport's been around. Like I know a lot of the European countries, there's that rich heritage of strength training, and that is their sport, and it's something that everybody recognizes, everybody understands, and there's a tradition of doing that, and so it was organized a long time ago. Whereas here, it's a lot fresher, and it's been kind of organized on the back end. Like the sport came over from European countries, I'm assuming. You know what I mean? And on the American side, we just started kind of doing it, and then all the bullshit and drama caused a separation amongst different lifters, and then that's just kind of where the sport's at.
Yeah.
Whereas things like strongman and things like powerlifting and weightlifting, they had that organization from the get-go, and it's just kind of followed in the footsteps of that.
Well,
You think that's more the case?
Yeah. I guess what baffles me is how well CrossFit has jumped in and made it a very mainstream event.
Yeah.
And what I find interesting is that, you pop on, even myself, I'll pop on, ESPN or ESPN2 or wherever it's at and watch it, and I kind of get drawn in, and it's kind of not as entertaining for me, I guess, but it's still fun to watch.
Right.
And, you see all these CrossFit events all the time. Every weekend you could find a gym that's hosting a CrossFit event, but it's for fun. It's just to see where you're at. How many times have you seen besides maybe a charity event for a powerlifting competition, and said, hey, let's just do this for fun, let's see where everybody's at, have a good time.
Yeah.
I mean, that shit doesn't happen. It's, hey, give me $100 so you can do full power. Oh, plus you need a $40 card
Right.
fee.
You got to sign up in this federation.
And then you got to be here to weigh in at this time. And then by the way, there's all these rules, and some of these rules will apply to you, and some won't apply to all. There's all this shit. And I guess maybe one of the things that like really bothers me is people just coming in and starting their own federation. Like, what stops us from saying, hey, fuck it, we're gonna go and start we're gonna go start our own federation, and this is what it's gonna be called, and these are the rules we're gonna have, and fuck it, you know what? Your all-time records, they don't matter, because we're gonna have our own all-time records, and we're the only one that matters. Like, at what spot do you just say enough is enough? This is not gonna be allowed anymore. Or do we just continue to go on?
Well, I think we've reached that point where it's like we need to kind of start trying to change it and trying to consolidate and have that one kind of federation that's going to carry everything forward. So now we're going to go ahead and start the JPF Federation. It's the one federation.
Well, and I think that's interesting is I think the USPA started to do that.
Right.
Unfortunately, they've hit some hurdles because of some online, bullshit drama
Yeah.
that's completely unwanted or needed. But they were headed in that right direction.
Yeah.
But I guess, now you're starting to see, like, if you hold a USPA meet, your gym has to meet a certain standard, and then it's certified as a USPA gym, and that's just a money market there. So
it sounds really good in theory,
yeah,
because it's like, all right, well, we know what we're going to have some standards for how we do things,
And
but
what we're looking for.
and what we want to do. That way, there's some continuity between our different events, which is great. Until that's not realistically and regularly upheld, then
Right.
it just becomes a money grab. And there's even been issues with the USPA with, now I don't like this person and now I don't want to use their products, and if you use any of their shit, you're not allowed to lift in my federation.
Right.
That's exactly how this problem got started in the first place.
But that's where you take somebody who has kind of branched out more than just a federation. Steve Dennison has, him and his wife, work with Iron Rebel, or own Iron Rebels. They have their own wraps, and, I'm not even going to say what else they have, but, they basically have all these products, and then just consolidate and say, well, you know what? You can only use these products at these competitions. I think is bullshit.
Yeah.
But then to even go even further, now they have online, or not online coaches, they have certified coaches. So now you take a course and you pay them money, and you're now a certified USPA coach. What does that mean? What is that? What is a USPA certified coach?
Well,
do?
so you can go teach powerlifting at 24-hour fitness.
I guess the main concern that I have, and I'm completely baffled by this, is how to fix it. So in the Portland area, we have a UPA competition coming up, but we have APA, APF, and WABDL. They're all very local, right? Hardcore powerlifting with Sean, he puts on his meets around here. So what spot do you say, okay, I'm not going to compete here anymore, I'm only going to compete here? Are people only competing in competitions based on travel time, or is it actually, hey, I like Nike, I'm going to wear Nike, so it's Nike? Or, is it, hey, this gym's closer to my house, so I'm going to compete there?
I think it's a bit of both. I mean, the difficult part in a sport with no continuity, where there's no chance of ever really making any money,
Right.
that's completely for fun and doesn't count for anything, and if you try and explain it to your family, they don't give a shit, is that it's expensive. It already costs money to do meets, it costs money to prep for meets, it costs money to train, it costs money to hire a coach, and it costs money to travel. And finding local meets is a lot easier for somebody to get into the sport that's new if they don't have that entire additional cost of having to travel and pay for gas, food, lodging.
Well,
So
for me, that's kind of what I was gonna say too. Is for me, it's personally, I look at it both ways. It's gonna be like, what's the local meet that I want to go to? Then it's looking at the cost fund of, have I already joined this federation?
Yeah.
Am I already a member of that federation? Well, fine. I'll travel a little bit more so I don't have to pay for an entry fee to go to this federation. And then there's the other aspect of, there's certain contests that I just really enjoy. I have a lot of fun going to the meets. I have a lot of fun, competing. And so, the hardcore meets, I really enjoy going to do those meets. So I'll go out of my way, travel a little bit more to go do those meets because I really enjoy the atmosphere and I enjoy the announcing and I enjoy the show that's put on. And it's just a lot of fun. So there's a certain aspect of, it's fun for me. And I think that's a big thing is because there's not a lot of consolidation and having, a professional level and stuff like that, there's no real drive to be I'm going to compete in just this federation because that's a federation where I can get my pro card or that's where I'm going to work to becoming a better, overall power lifter. It's okay, well, I'm paying money to go compete in something that's basically me getting into a retail business of I'm going to give you my money to go compete there. So now I'm paying you for an experience more than I am for trying to do something cool. And I like to put on a show and entertain the crowd and all that stuff. So it's me paying money to go have fun, go work out in front of people. And so that becomes, for me, it's just a thing of, when the hardcore goes to Texas, I'm not going to always fly down to Texas to go compete because it's just going to cost me a lot of money to go down there. And, when a meet's like more local, like, if you got a USPA meet or a UPA or whatever meet's local, it might be like, okay, I'm going to go hit up this meet because it's right here.
Sure.
And then it's a thing of, am I a member of that federation already? So then that cost expense starts to play a big role in it. But for me, it's not just the cost, it becomes the experience as well. And who's going to put the best experience forward? Where am I going to get the most bang for my buck, so to speak?
You got to think, too, that the solidarity would increase so much more with money, just in the way of, you don't have to pay as much to get into a competition. If there's more people that are going to be in that competition, you're going to get more people to attend. Is what if you can have it broken down into one. Another thing too is the drama of people hating each other.
Yeah.
That builds the sport.
Yeah.
If Larry Bird and Magic Johnson didn't hate each other, we wouldn't have cared about those battles. If just the way that works is you get more fans involved with that if they can break it down into one. People can make more money. It can become more of a profitable sport to compete in.
So maybe everybody needs to just hate each other openly instead of passive aggressive.
That's the way to go.
And you talked about consolidating everything. It almost kind of kills a few birds with one stone, right? Because I know one of the challenges for all the meet directors, they put on a competition, and a week before the competition, they're still getting entry fees.
Mm-hmm.
If there were, if it was consolidated to maybe 1 or 2, maybe 3 at tops powerlifting competitions in your area or in your state, right? And they say 100 people max, you're going to get your shit in pretty quick because you want to be one of those 100. Right, so you're not waiting until the last second, and I fall to blame for this too. I do this all the time. There's competition I'm 12 weeks out on. Yeah, whatever. I'll turn it in later.
Yeah.
And it ends up being the week of or 2 weeks out, and and it sucks for the meet directors because then they have a hard time prepping for everything.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe Josh, maybe you can fill us in a little bit on this. Like, if you were going to jump into powerlifting tomorrow, because obviously we saw what you
Capable.
bench today, and we need at least one more day of training. If you're going to jump into powerlifting tomorrow, you have outlets like Powerlifting Watch and maybe different forums and stuff. But like, how would you choose as far as competition wise?
I think because I don't know as much about the wraps and the 2-ply and all the other stuff you were talking about, I'd have to do for me, I would consider raw to be the number one. Just a guy sitting down, pushing the weight. That, to me, that's what I would call the top notch. Again, most of it's because I don't know what all those wraps do and the difference with this and that. I just want to see a guy push really heavy weight up as high as they can. I am a firm believer in no steroids. I believe that with baseball, football, basketball, all my other sports. So I would also believe that with weightlifting. I want someone clean, who's done it the right way, and just straight up lift. That's all I want to see.
How would you go about picking a competition for yourself, though?
Personally, I'd have to look and see what competitions, what sort of things we're going, what federation does the raw lifting, and have to go off of that. Not knowing big names or things like that, I would have to go and experience one and see, are these a bunch of tool bags or are these guys who, I want to beat and I want to be, in the league with or compete against on a regular basis.
Yeah.
So here's something I don't see enough of, and I think this would help fix some of these things, and maybe for like a brand new lifter, if you decide to do powerlifting, is something I started doing about a year ago is every time I go to a competition, I have a chat with the meet director afterwards. And even if it's on Facebook or a phone call, an email, whatever, and I just chat about what I think the pros and cons were. This is what I think you did really well, and then these are the things I think you did really shitty on. And really, not like, there's been a couple of guys that I'm really good friends with that have held meets, and I've really critiqued what they've done, and maybe even had more cons than pros, but that's to help them be better, to make it. So do you think that would help, if like, maybe if there's a way of like, hey, I had a shitty experience, right? I warmed up 3 different fucking times, or maybe whatever fucking happened.
Yeah.
But showing that, hey, this is shitty, I didn't like it, and this is why, instead of just bashing the federation or bashing the meet director, trying to help fix it.
And then having that bad word of mouth after trying to have some kind of feedback.
Maybe maybe you could do something where like the meet director, emails all the lifters afterwards, and one shows appreciation because at the larger meets they're taking in more than $10,000.
Right.
You know what I mean? And rather than it just be like, all right, give me your money, do whatever the fuck you want. Meet's over, bye. Here's your plastic trophy. Says, you know what? I'm grateful for you helping me to be able to do this. One, because they're making a living. two, I'm appreciative of you helped me growing a sport that I care about and that I'm passionate about enough to go through as much work as it is to put on a meet, because that's a shit ton of work. But then also says, you know what, so that we can continue to do this better and actually be, here for the lifters, instead of just saying that. It's really easy to say that you're putting on a meet for the lifters when you're making $10,000-$15,000.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That sounds really good, but when it's not organized and it doesn't actually, play out to be something that is an enjoyable experience for all of the lifters, and you don't show that concern with, what they thought of things, how things went for them, whether or not they had to warm up on 3 separate occasions, like, all of those things are important from the lifter's perspective.
Right.
And I think if we, had the meet directors start to show that interest in what the lifters thought of the production, I think that would help quite a bit.
Yeah.
And then I think it would also help for the lifters to kind of vote with your dollars. It's the same as everything else.
Right, and that would start to, those directors that actually started showing interest and started caring, those are the ones that, I know those are the meets I go to.
Yeah.
Like, I like it when I feel that the meet's about me, I want to keep going to that federation. When it makes the lifters feel special, when I feel like, hey, they really cared about me being here, not next.
Here's one thing I'm having a tough time understanding is, we talk about maybe the monetary gain of running a meet, right? Some could be upwards of 10 grand or 15 grand, depending on how many lifters you allow to come in. With that being said, you think some of like the top level lifters or maybe the best lifters of the competition should get paid? Like, hey, we're maybe not going to give you $1,000, but hey, you know what? Here's $200 for winning. Here's $200 for being the best full power lifter in our competition. Or, here's your entry fee back.
Yeah.
Something to say, thank you for coming out and putting on a good show.
I think that just doing the entry fees would be awesome. Like, hey, I refunded your entry fee. Like, that is simple. That's nothing. It's $85 or $60 for one person or something.
I think that's good, and it also, there's a draw, because you also have to think of this, and this is something that I think powerlifting is still screwing up, is they don't consider the spectators.
Right.
Like, that's the other half of it as well, is powerlifting is not necessarily the most spectator-friendly sport, because it takes so goddamn long, and, half the time it's like, alright, cool, well, here's a metal fold-up chair, enjoy this for the next 12 hours, while the person you're here to see goes 9 total times.
Well, and that's the other thing, like, as it not being a spectator sport, and I think there's a certain aspect where, even like strongman, I have a problem with this in certain meets. What are they lifting? What is going on?
Yeah.
I mean,
Nobody's
unless,
explaining
you want, like, if I have spectators coming to a meet, like my friends or something that have no interest in, they've never competed, they have no idea what's going on, they're basically Josh, then I'm going to be like, I have to sit there and explain to them, like, okay, well, the three white lights, that's from the 3 different judges, and that means this. Or in strongman, I'm like, okay, so they're going to go ahead and lift up these stones. You have to go through this whole series. And then it's, well, what does each thing weigh? Like in strongman, it's like, well, what does that stone weigh? Me as a competitor, I know what it weighs because I've been preparing for it.
Yeah.
But as a spectator, you're like, oh, cool, they're lifting up something concrete. Well, that's cool. That looks impressive. Or in powerlifting, there's a certain aspect of like, certain meets, you don't even know what the guy's benching. Like the announcer might like mumble on the microphone, and you're like, oh, cool, that sounds great. So Adrian's going to go ahead and go, bib, bib. That's what he's benching. Awesome.
Right.
And I think there's a certain aspect of they need to consider the spectators and how they show things, and so it's like what's going on.
Well, and that's where I think having the top level lifters, like making an incentive for them to come show up at those events, that's something really cool for somebody who's not experienced the sport to come. If they're like, look, this guy here is going to bench, damn near 600 pounds without using any legs, and here's why that's so much more impressive, then that's something really cool. But if it's like, whatever, bench your shit, get off the stage, then, and it's not any more special or different than anybody else going up there who gets cattle called off the stage in 1 minute, like there's no incentive to get excited about the sport or even understand what's going on. Or for the lifters who have put in the time and significant amount of money by the time they even get to that level to want to continue giving back to the sport.
And you look at, when you say 600 pounds, for somebody who doesn't go to a competition, doesn't really know what that weight is like, it's a big number. People say, oh, because they just know it's a big number, but they don't quite understand what 600 pounds is.
Right.
Even doing little things of being able to break down, hey, this guy's about to bench, 2 goats and a donkey.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm like, holy cow.
Are they erect or not?
They got to have something to hold on to.
Yeah, okay.
Well,
makes
I mean,
a difference.
and that's the big thing too. In strongman, it's like I can pull a truck. And, like, okay, if there's no sleds or anything, it's just pulling a truck. It's kind of like, okay, that's really easy. And people get so impressed by that. They're like, oh my gosh, he just moved a truck. And then I go deadlift 700 pounds for reps, and they're like, man, I don't even know what that is. I have no relation.
Listen, man, I have a video on YouTube where I bench 555 for a double, right? For me, that was probably one of my biggest accomplishments as far as in training. And that has a third of the views of me benching a motorcycle with a girl sitting on it that probably weighed 500 total.
Right.
You know what I mean? And that's the thing that's crazy is that you look at the motorcycle and everybody's like, how did you bench it? Well, because it wasn't that fucking heavy.
Yeah.
But 555 gets a third of the views because somebody looks at it and goes, 555 is cool, but I'm assuming there's probably people that lift more than that. So putting stuff in
my head too, though, a motorcycle is more than 555. Like
you would think,
and you could tell me it wasn't. But it's not. No, it's a motorcycle. How could it not? It just as a bar is not that heavy compared to a motorcycle.
And I think doing some of those things to put it in comparison to people like, hey, only 4% of the lifters ever have ever benched this, or you know, this is an all-time record, or this is how close he is to an all-time record. This is how good it. This is how close he is to being.
This weighs even more than a motorcycle with an anorexic.
So let's get back to where maybe like Olympic lifting, CrossFit, strongman. They've all got one federation, and then they have fun meets. So how do we get powerlifting fixed, or maybe help fix it to be similar?
Well, and I think the biggest way we're going to fix it is start having that one federation that everybody starts promoting. Everybody's kind of like, this is the federation, this is the one it is, this is the real federation that has that, like, kind of like you were talking about, the USPA was originally kind of doing that, and then they kind of like got all over the place.
I think an important thing is if we're going to do that, then you don't start a new federation. Take something that's already out there.
Fuck. There goes my idea.
But we have to find one to embrace that allows everyone to compete.
Yeah.
All right,
because
what about this? I got a really good idea here.
All right,
this just came to me.
Let's try this.
This just came to me. What if you had a federation that was designated as a professional level federation? Yeah, no, seriously. Then you have, like, let's say all of these, you know, lower tier federations, or maybe federations that don't have
amateur
that are amateur.
Right.
You're not allowed to set an all-time record
in an amateur federation.
Okay. Or what about, you know, you're not able to set world records at amateur meets. You could set state records, hold meets, have fun, check where you're at, try to set goals, break your goals, whatever. But that's all that counts for.
And then you have
This
to hit
federation,
like a class 1 or whatever total.
And I think that's a great idea. That's a really interesting way to put it, because it's like the way it is now. Like, I can just lift at my home gym all the time, and I can lift with my home federation and be like, I set an all-time record with this federation, with my own judges that watch me every day lifting and stuff, and they know I'm capable of it. Or I go to a big meet and I'm like, I'm not going to go ahead and lift heavy.
Look at Tiny Meeker. He broke a fucking all-time record in the Cajun Powerlifting Federation.
Yeah.
What the fuck is that? The Cajun Powerlifting Federation? Seriously, it's a thing. So this is where Powerlifting Watch controls all the all-time records, and a guy named Michael Song is the guy that actually puts in all the records and keeps track of them. So at some point they got to say, listen, we're not going to allow these federations to be able to set all-time records anymore. And this is why. Because we need just one pro powerlifting competition.
Yeah.
And there could be there's a
different
competition
locations,
all over the United States, just like it is now. But if you decide to go do an APA meet or a whatever, you know, a Cajun powerlifting meet, then it doesn't count for shit. You're gonna get a certificate.
Student, not just for them trying to play thigh to thigh. You're halfway up the frame.
Well, but basically, since he messed that up, what I've heard you describe is what they do with golf. If you look at golf, there's golf courses all over the world, and you can go and you can have a fun competition. Your course can be PGA regulated, but it's not until you hit that point, you make it through their amateur process, that you can actually join the PGA and be in a PGA event. Now you can still play the courses, you can still have fun events at at their courses. That's what they do. So I used to work at one. They'd have big meet or a big competition. You get one, two pros roll out. You get to see them. That's fun. People are preparing to get to the next level. But anything they do there doesn't really matter as much until they get on that PGA card. They get to that next step.
So you can go ahead and, like, the way you're explaining it is you can go ahead and set all-time records, but they don't count for shit.
Right.
Yeah.
They're now a state record.
Right.
But you could technically have state records that are higher
I
than
think
the
that would be
all-time
a
record.
really easy way to do
I
it.
think another thing to help kind of protect the all-time list, and you know, it's something I'm really passionate about. I think some of these guys that, you know, people I looked up to growing up and beginning to lift, you know, some of these all-time records are being broken. I think having a committee of people that review them, you know, not just one guy.
Yeah.
You don't just send a guy a video and him go,
Good.
oh, there's 2 white lights. Good. That's not how that should work. It should be a committee of people that look at it from some different angles. You know what? This is a little questionable. We're not able to give you the record at this time. You're going to have to go and you're going to have to break it again.
Mm-hmm.
And I know as a lifter, from my perspective, I would way rather that happen than blast it and then, you know, get blazed up on social media about how high your squat was or how quick the press command was. You had a soft handoff or whatever.
Well,
you
then maybe
break that. You want it to be legit.
Maybe we then start, you know, people have complained there's no instant replays in powerlifting. How expensive is it to put a fucking GoPro on the side of a bench?
Right.
I think we need to bring video in. I think that your all-time record should not stand unless you got 3 white lights, or it gets, you know, maybe there are more than 3 judges. Maybe we have a panel of 6 judges that look at it. Or maybe it gets approved by the 3 judges that are at the meet, but then has to get submitted to a panel of qualified people to approve whether or not it's a good or bad lift. Because that's going to eliminate, one, a lot of the politics, because it's not just one person's decision or 2 people's decision. Because it's a panel of people that are experienced, have probably held a record or 2 of their own in their day, and they're qualified to judge the validity of what your lift was.
Well, that's the...
and it's not going to allow you to just kind of break it with 2 whites.
In the CrossFit Open, that's kind of what they do. Like, the Open, you can do it at your own home gym, whatever. You can do it at your house. Mm-hmm. So if you're at an actual affiliate, like a CrossFit
You can do a
affiliate,
WOD at your house?
Yeah.
Oh.
You can do all kinds of WODs at your house, all over the place.
All right.
But if you're...
Did you never go through puberty?
Yeah.
Interesting.
If you're doing the Open though, if you're at an affiliate, you have the affiliate manager validate everybody's scores, but you still have to submit videos of you doing it. And it has to meet a certain criteria. It has to have the clock in this view. You have to like show each plate that they're actually the right plates, and you have to show the bar in the video the whole time. So it's not like, oh, it rolls out of the screen and now it comes back and I've got styrofoam plates on. So you have to show that, hey, I actually did it. Then you have to have a judge that actually judges it, and then you have to have the affiliate manager like, okay, this is great, this is how it works, and then they submit that all up to the website, the CrossFit Open website, and then they review all of your videos and make sure, okay, it looks good, you're legit, and if you get those top scores, then you're going to move on to go to the regionals, and then from regionals go to the games, stuff like that.
So do you think if powerlifting fixed themselves, right? Like, let's say everything we talked about gets fixed, and we have one federation that means shit, everything else doesn't mean anything. Do you think it could be as mainstream as, like, Strongman or CrossFit?
I think absolutely so, and I think a lot of that is because of CrossFit.
Yeah.
I mean, what they did very successfully is made barbell training mainstream. And whatever you think about it, it is now trendy to train with a barbell in some fashion or another. And, you know, some people are still into the conditioning side. Some people are still into CrossFit now as a sport, which wasn't the case originally. But you've also got the people who got involved through CrossFit that have now, you know, said, you know what, I really just care about squat, bench, and deadlift. So now they powerlift.
Well, now because of the fact that you have so many people training with the barbell, you have more people that understand what that weight is.
Yeah.
They understand, like, oh my gosh, that guy's, you know, squatting, you know, 600 pounds, or that guy's squatting 1,000 pounds, or that guy's doing this. I go to my gym and I do my WOD and I only squat 95 pounds. So I know what the difference weights is because of how they've made that barbell training a little bit more popular. So people are starting to understand what weight really is and what weights feel like. And they're like, oh, that's more impressive to watch that. And I think fixing the problems in powerlifting and making a much more mainstream thing could make it a lot more popular and kind of drive it into that whole mainstream. Because it's like, oh, wow, I know what it feels like to bench. I know what it feels like to, you know, be hanging out with my homies and be like, yeah, bro, I got such a nasty pump right now. I'm so jacked. And then, you know...
Hey, homies. Yeah, bro, I got a nasty pump right now. I'm so jacked.
I need to get the toe corner out.
But
Check out how vascular I am.
I'm
Touch
just saying
my
that
veins.
with the popularity of CrossFit and the whole popularity of the barbell training, if you start to fix the problems in powerlifting, and like you're saying, having an instant replay and all this stuff, hello, we live in the 21st century. Cameras are everywhere. Why can't we have an instant replay? Why can't we start having more validity of the sport, submitting more videos? The internet's everywhere. You can go talk to a 5-year-old kid who knows how to, upload things on his iPhone or whatever.
Well, I think that social media presence and the fact that the internet is around is exactly why we're capable of fixing the sport right now in a way that was not possible, 10 years ago.
Right.
When we didn't have the ability to communicate and share things from, every part of the world at the same time. There's money in the sport of powerlifting right now because of CrossFit, and there's enough incentive that if we do it correctly and somebody just says, look, enough is enough, everyone will adjust, and I think that everybody will make more money.
Right.
You know what I mean? So that will fix that. But I think right now, just everybody's scared of losing out on their hand in the pot.
The other thing that you're going to need too is you're going to need certain people to step up and be that spokesman or that kind of lead guy that runs the path. That's one thing that CrossFit really doesn't have is one mainstream guy. They've done a good thing of just making CrossFit be the mainstream. But even back in the mid-'90s when Strongman was on ESPN every night, there were 4 or 5 guys you saw every single time on the TV. And cheering for one guy and telling the other guy to piss off, hoping he drops the weight on him. Because I've seen this guy, I've seen him in interviews. He became more of a spokesperson. Right. The NBA did that with Michael Jordan. NBA was starting to get forgotten about. That came around.
With CrossFit, you have, in the men, you have Rich Froning, who's basically the guy who's won every type thing.
Okay.
And he finally backed out of individual competition because he just wins all the time. So this year he's doing team competition. But I mean, you kind of got to just get into that CrossFit world, but you do have those few guys or women that are just like, oh, that's who I want to watch this year. And the women, you've got like Sam Briggs and Camille Labenze or whatever. I don't know how to say her name because I'm not Canadian. But, you got all these, women that are really good that, it's like, oh man, I'm going to watch her this year because she's going to kill it. Or I'm going to watch this guy this year because he's awesome and he's going to do great. And then I'm going to go buy his shoes and I want to go buy his shorts and I want to go buy his shirt because I'm going to become him. Where in powerlifting, you don't have, because we don't have a pro division, you don't have that
There's
kind
no
of
way
like
to recognize
right.
who's
So
actually
if we started to have that pro division, number one, you could start to televise it a little bit more because this is the federation to watch, and then it would be like for marketing, you could have like, well, Adrian Larson goes ahead and he uses the gangster rap, so I want to go ahead and go buy gangster rap because I know that's what he uses, and I'm going to become as good of a bencher as him by using the gangster rap. So I'm going to,
Just true story.
Right.
So you think this would help fix? This will help fix stuff from even a spectator standpoint because you go in and you look at a competition and go, okay, there's 5 guys in the 220-pound class and their benches are 10 pounds away from each other. And
that's exciting to watch.
It's exciting to see, hey, this person just took the lead by benching this.
Right.
Now the pressure's on these 4 guys if they want to win this competition. Versus, I don't know how many times I've gone to a competition and been the only guy in the open 220 division.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter. You're going to get first place whether you bench 135 or 500. So that would help kind of bring in some spectators as far as it being fun again. You've been to competitions before. How boring is it just to sit there?
Yeah.
Load the bar to 465.
Well, and it's 5 minutes in between each time, and it's just, there's 3 guys sitting on chairs just waiting while other people are throwing weights up, and then the guy's prepping in the back, and you're just sitting there waiting, and it drags on, especially too when you're only waiting to see somebody do 3 lifts.
Yeah.
What I know for me as a lifter, it's that thing of, if I know somebody's going to be pushing me, somebody's going to be close to what I'm lifting, I'm going to go as heavy as I can because I want to beat that guy. So when I go to a show and it's like, well, I'm the only one who can squat over 700 pounds, it's like, why do I need to do more? I'll just go squat over 700 pounds and I'm good.
Yeah, no, that's exactly true. Yeah, so we have some good ideas on how we can fix this. I think just to kind of wrap up the discussion here on how to fix powerlifting or why other sports have done it correctly, I think the first thing everybody should do is be a little bit more proactive on helping meet directors fix what the good and what the bad is.
Yeah, help make the production better.
Yeah, and I think that comes on if it's your first competition or it's your 300th competition. I think it's important to do that. I think it's also important to kind of address like if you don't believe in what a federation is doing, or if maybe they're allowing shitty lifts to pass, or if they're doing shady shit on Facebook, or maybe they're just doing things that piss you off, even though they're 2 minutes from your house, then they're holding a competition 2 minutes from your house, don't do it.
Yeah.
Because that's what's going to help solve the problem.
Right.
If they piss you off and you're unsatisfied with the way you were treated at the gym, or unsatisfied with not getting a trophy, or you're unsatisfied with a list of whatever it could be, don't fucking do it. Go to the federation that treats you well, that you believe in,
Right.
that is going to treat you well. Maybe they don't have shady lifts. Maybe they're, people aren't doing shady stuff.
Another thing too is people have to stop being bitches and know that if there's somebody in a weight class, like if I was in the 220, I was like, oh damn, Adrian's going to this competition. Since I'm not gonna win, I don't want to go.
Time for a cheeseburger.
Yeah, stop being a bitch and just get bigger and try and win.
Right.
Don't run from somebody who, yeah, he's stronger than you. That should be motivation to keep going, not.
We need to embrace the competition,
yeah.
not embrace your ego and avoid the competition so you
Right.
can keep your record.
Well, and I can't tell you how many times a meet director have said, hey, please don't broadcast you're going to be at this competition. Because I don't want to discourage other 220 lifters to show up. And that kind of sucks for me because I like to blast, hey, this is where I'm going to be,
Yeah.
this is what I'm shooting for, these are what my goals are. And to not be able to do that kind of sucks. And it has a little bit of that, well, I don't want to be in your weight class. And it happened at the Emerald Cup. I step on the scale, 230. Next person steps on the scale, fuck. Well, let me put my shoes and coat back on so they can weigh 251.
Right.
Yeah.
So they'd be in the next weight class. And I understand, they made a long commute, they want to win, they want to get a trophy or whatever. But to me, I don't care about a trophy. I have enough trophies.
Yeah.
I want to be able to walk off the stage and go, okay, everybody that came there and watched that are walking out of there going, fuck, that was awesome.
Right.
Yeah.
That I put on a good show for them, that I benched, as close to a PR or a PR as possible. And
I think having that professional division will do that because
yeah,
there will be less pressure and less intimidation because I know that does end up happening. Like at the smaller meets, you have people who it is their first time and they don't want to get just completely shit tanked by being in the same class as you or another elite level lifter because that's maybe not as exciting the first time out of the gate. Have them compete against people that are on their same skill level, and then they get that same healthy kind of competition, and they're not the person rolling up being like, ah, shit, I weigh the same thing as Adrian. Why did I even show up?
Right.
And then you're not having to deal with that. And then you know what? Yeah, we can brag about having events with all of the top guys going, and by the time that they're those top guys, they should know how to stack up and handle competing against each other.
And they should look for, I know I look for the competition.
Yeah.
Like when I, at the Emerald Cup, I won the big total by beating out Ben. And I was like, yeah, I was so pumped.
Yeah.
Because I've been chasing him for a long time.
That's a hurdle for you
Right.
to be able to say, hey, this is what I've accomplished.
Right.
And Ben is a strong guy.
Yeah.
So to be able to say, hey, I outlifted Ben or I out-totaled Ben, that's a huge accomplishment.
And that's the thing that I'm like looking for, and it's kind of the same thing. When I show up to a meet and I'm the only 275 or the only 308er, it's like, well, okay, cool. I mean, it's the same even the same in strongman. If I show up to a meet and I'm the only person in my weight class, it's like, what am I doing? Like, I like to go to a show and there's like 10, 15 people in my weight class.
Yeah.
And it's like, all right, let's bring it. Let's really work hard. And it's more entertaining for the crowd to see.
Yep.
Right.
You go out there and you're like, in strongman, if it's like I go out there and I lift it one time, if I'm the only person in my weight class, I won. Why do I want to run the risk of injury by doing it more than once? So if I've got like 15 people in my class, though, it's like, I know this guy's coming up and I know he's really good. I need to go ahead and push myself and really bring it for this competition. And I think that's what the pro division would bring in is you're like, oh crap, I know this guy's going to be in my division. There's a possibility this guy's going to be there. I need to really step up my game and bring the best me that I can to the platform.
Yep. So then if we're looking at, we need to get more feedback from the lifters. The lifters are responsible for voting for the people running the meets that they want to be a part of in the divisions that allow them to be able to lift and compete. And we need to have that separation between an amateur and a pro division. Who is capable of actually organizing this? Is this something that we can take to Powerlifting Watch and say, look, you guys are the closest thing we have to a unified, like, non-partial governing body, and have them maybe start talking to all of the different federations?
I think the biggest hurdle is getting every single person on board, right? I think it's a good idea. I think Powerlifting Watch would be like the first person to contact, right? I think you could really talk to them and say, hey, this is what we're trying to get put together and this is how you can help. But I think ultimately what you're going to have is that meet director that says, fuck you guys.
Yeah.
Well, you can talk to the heads of the federations, though, because there are still, even though we've got this many different things going on, each of those does report to one person.
Sure. The problem is if one person that runs a federation bitches about fucking wrist wraps, how are they going to feel when they say, hey, look, you're no longer going to be able to set all-time records. You're in amateur division, and this person is now the only pro division. I mean, if we're fucking arguing over wrist straps and Raw Classic and Raw Classic Classic, Raw, Single Fly, Raw Classic, I mean...
2.5 meter Classic Raw, 3 meter Classic Raw.
I mean, how are you going to be able to sell it to this guy and say, you are no longer able to set all-time records? I mean, I don't think... I mean...
Well, let's be honest, though, too.
You're going to have to piss a lot of people off in the beginning to get the sport moving in the direction that it is.
Yeah, I think you're right.
When the ABL went under and the NBA took them over, and they didn't go willingly. This wasn't like these teams were like, yeah, let's go join these guys, forget our league. No, they didn't like it. But they realized that these guys were doing it better. These guys were making more money. And, well, you know, it's either shit or get off the pot. You got to jump on board or you're going to be left behind.
The incentives for the lifters are actually maybe being able to make something off of winning competitions.
Right.
If we can have that pro division, then that's what's going to be what is going to get the sponsorships. Mm-hmm. That's going to be what gets televised. That's where the money's going to be. And then as soon as you do that, then businesses have a reason to want to jump into the sport. As soon as business jumps into the sport, there's money for the lifters.
Right.
There's their incentive. Go ahead and bitch all you want about your 2.5 meter this division, that division record. I'd rather get paid $1,000, or something.
It's honestly, like, talking about this, like, I'm honestly a little embarrassed. Like, to be a part of powerlifting, like, I love the sport. I've been doing it for so long. But to think about how screwed up it is right now, like, I'm embarrassed. I'm embarrassed to be a part of this, and I'm embarrassed, to see some of these meet directors make money, and they don't do a goddamn thing for any of the lifters.
Right.
And that really pisses me off. And it's kind of the same thing in bodybuilding. You imagine these guys that go through all of the cuts and all of the meat prep and everything that they do for a fucking trophy. You know what I mean? Give them some fucking money. You just made $10,000. Pay them.
Give them
$10. I've ran charity meets before, and I know what it's like to contact companies and say, hey, can you hook us up with some samples, some shirts, some swag, something to give to these people that are coming in and doing this? It isn't fucking hard. Anybody could do it. Mm-hmm. But
we organized last year. We organized that Dornbecker meet in like 4.5, 5 weeks.
Yeah.
And I had maybe eight. I don't have to read the shirt, but like 8, 9 businesses that jumped right on board. We had prize packs for them. We had massages for the winners. We had gift baskets. We had things from Sports Nutrition Center, who sponsors everything that we do.
Right.
And all these companies are totally willing to get on the bandwagon to help promote those kinds of events. Right. And there's just, I don't know, maybe people are lazy. Maybe they just don't care.
I think it all just comes down to being selfish and just thinking, well, I'm going to get $10,000 for being in the gym all day and talking on a microphone, and that's just the way that is. And I think people just really got to put their foot down and say, I'm tired of this shit. Like, I'm embarrassed. Like, I truly am embarrassed about this. And it's really funny is trying to sit down and talk to somebody like Josh. We talked about it over the weekend, and it's like, when I start saying stuff to him, it's like, fuck, this is so embarrassing to say we have a gear division, a raw division, a raw, classic raw, singlet, raw division.
Then you've got every possible weight category divided by every possible age category.
I mean, it is insane.
I looked at records online of records for lifters in these different classes and all that, and all it is a chart with just dots fucking everywhere, all over the place. This color dot means that he used this, and this, and this color dot means he used this, and this.
No one cares.
And it's I wanted one single answer. This is what I want to see. You can't find that stuff.
Yeah.
So
I think moving forward, then the important thing, it is frustrating, but to actually use that frustration to do something about it. Because it is great to have these kind of conversations, and I don't see a lot of people having this kind of a conversation and actually, looking at the sport for where it's exactly at right now and what can possibly be done. The difference is that we have to actually do something. You know what I mean? It's really easy to just get pissed off and then Then we're just more people talking shit.
I feel like you're calling me out a little bit.
No,
He is.
I'm trying to take your frustration and make it productive.
Okay. All right.
Well, what I want to do, oh, it's way too much man time. I want to call out all of our listeners on this. Go to our Facebook page, Chalk Talk, and let us know, what do you think? What's a federation that you think, does things correctly, or what are some things that we could do to bring powerlifting into the mainstream, to get this professional league maybe going, maybe started? If you have ideas, let us know. Comment on there, we'll comment back.
I'll tell you what, I'll up the ante a little bit for the best suggestion, right? Like the real clear-cut best suggestion, I'll give out a free t-shirt too.
Free t-shirt right there, top
Boom.
suggestion.
Boom.
So make sure you guys go to Chalk Talk on Facebook, let us know.
I'll even make sure he sweats in it first.
And while you're there, make sure if you have any questions to drop us a comment, or ask us a question on there.
Yeah.
We will answer it on the show, like we are about to right now, I think.
Yeah, I think Jared needs to plug some competitions and shit coming up.
Yeah, so this is perfect timing for me to look like a piece of shit. But speaking about powerlifting meets, we've got a couple events that are coming up here. First one on June 25th?
Actually, June 20th.
June 20th.
This
Man.
is what
Pretty-
I didn't write
Well,
it
you
down.
know what?
I
I'm
didn't write
sorry.
stuff down.
It's very tough to get this figured
On
out.
on June 20th, I'm sorry. Adrian's gonna be hosting the Lift for Autism. It's a charity meet supporting autism. That's why it's called Lift for Autism at the Nautilus Gym in Oregon City.
Oregon City.
Man,
So
the whole
here's-
half of the city is like the same thing to
So
me.
here's the cool thing about this is one of my best friends. I grew up with him. He was, him and his wife been married since just out of high school or whatever, and they had a baby who's about 3 years old now. And about 6 months ago or so, I get an invite to a birthday party, and the invite includes don't bring any presents. We don't want presents. Take whatever money that you're going to spend on a present and donate it to this autism foundation. And it broke my heart. Like I literally was like, oh my gosh, these two people deserve everything to be the best for them. And it kind of, I was super emotional that day going and visiting them. And, I decided instead of just being a pussy and sit there and say, I'm going to feel sorry for you, because I don't feel sorry for them. They're great parents.
Yeah.
I'm going to do something about it. And not only am I going to donate money that I wanted to for this foundation, but I'm going to help do my part to raise as much money as I can for them. And we've had a ton of great companies jump on board, like Animal, Viso, Juicy Fruit Bars, Slingshots on top of there, SNC, Sports Nutrition Centers helping out. Talked to Gen X Labs last night, and we actually have a really big thing that we're going to be releasing here this next week in regards to their company and this competition, which will make you want to compete for what we're going to put on the table. On top of that, these trophies that I'm getting, right? It's none of this generic trophy. I mean, this shit's going to blow people away, and I want to make this fun for everybody. I want to make it fun for somebody who's competed 50 times or somebody who's going to maybe compete for the first time.
And make sure you guys too, if you go to GoFundMe, look up Autism Awareness. Adrian's got an account set up there. Just any way that you can help out, support. It's a great cause, and it'll help out a lot of great people.
Yep, it's just another good opportunity to get some more exposure for the sport. It's a great opportunity if you haven't competed yet to actually come and experience what that atmosphere is like. The really cool thing with these charity events is it is powerlifting. It is the same thing that you're doing at a sanctioned meet, but a lot of that pressure is gone. And it's really just a bunch of people getting together, doing something that they enjoy doing, spending the afternoon together, and doing it for a good cause.
And it'd be good to even just come spectate if you've never seen a powerlifting meet before. Just come check it all out.
I also lost a bet, and I'll be wearing a tutu for part of the day of the competition. So
When are you dressed as a woman, by the
That's
way?
tomorrow.
awesome! I'll be there.
What time?
Why are y'all dressing up as women? Wait a minute. I thought I was the weird one in the group, but
Oh, dude, what are you cross-dressing?
we did a seminar at my gym, and Adrian came in and topped the bench, and the whole thing was if he could bench 600 pounds in a slingshot, then I was going to have to teach one of my classes as dressed up as a woman.
We're just trying to keep Portland weird.
Right.
it's
And
weird.
if Adrian had not benched it, then we were going to have to film an episode of Chalk Talk with him dressed as a woman. But
that would
he
be
went for
That
it.
would be great.
He went for it the first time, and he missed it. And I was like, yes! And then he was like, no, I've got this shit. He goes back over and he does it the second time. I'm like, damn it.
Oh, I was so pissed off. What else we got going on?
On June 25th, which is a Thursday, I'm going to actually be hosting the Northwest stop of the Russian Strength Tour. We've got Boris Shako and Mikhail Koklaev. Hopefully I said that right.
Common spelling.
Huh?
Common spelling?
Oh, yeah, clearly.
Okay.
It's just just Russian traditional spelling.
Okay.
They're going to be here doing a seminar all day on Thursday, the 25th. It's going to be a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to come and meet them. I don't know about you, but I will probably not be in Russia anytime soon. And they're not going to be here anytime soon. America. So be sure to check out the event details on that on our Facebook page. I'll be sure to share that on the Chalk Talk Facebook page. Registration is $350. Please do so as soon as possible to reserve your spot. We are going to be capping that, so that way there's not 50 people here.
That's why I already registered.
That's why he already registered instead of waiting till the last minute. Interesting concept.
I might register a little bit sooner than later.
Unlike some people.
Did you get my hat, by the way?
I ordered it.
Good.
Yeah, he didn't actually register for that either.
No.
There was a link that said click to order your hat, and he's like, I'd love a hat, and that's it.
I thought you just had a comment, I want one.
No.
Apparently, somewhere in there it said click the link for one.
Yeah,
No, I just comment, I want one.
The link's actually where I get your money. You can have one.
Okay. Can I have yours?
Well, is this,
You know,
this
this
a
one.
personal conversation?
I ordered like the fattest head size that I could for
That'll
you. I just assumed that would be
probably
it.
Be like wearing skinny jeans.
Oh, but for your face.
What else we got going on?
Girls. You guys are talking about clothes. You're gonna go change.
What
mix
color
things up
tutu
after
are you
you
gonna
leave?
wear?
It's not coming
I got
from
pink.
the guy who's cross-dressing tomorrow. That's it.
All right, let's check out Facebook. Let's see what kind of questions that we have from that.
The cool thing is, and I don't know who did this. I think Jaron actually did, but a guy named David Nearing asked what a GHR is, and instead of waiting for the podcast to describe what a GHR is, you decided just to answer it on the Facebook page, which makes zero sense.
I'm sorry.
So ask your questions on Facebook. We'll answer them on Facebook and not the podcast, but we said it'll be on the podcast, so I'm really confused here.
So
let's-
David Nearing, a GHR is a glute ham raise. It is not a GHD. I don't care what you CrossFit people call it. What's the exercise you do on your GHD?
GHD sit-ups, GHD raises.
GHD raises? A glute ham developing raise?
Yeah.
That makes no fucking sense. GHR is a glute ham raise.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
so
yeah.
What's a glute ham raise?
A glute ham raise. I
I'm
wish I
getting a
had.
little hungry.
just break this down.
Glute ham raise is like the body weight version of a hamstring curl, basically. The machine looks really similar to a 45 degree or to whatever, just a back extension, but it's a bigger range of motion. Pad's typically rounded, so that way you can go from full 90 degrees all the way up. I guess that'd be 180 degrees of motion. But it's a cool piece of equipment because it works both of the functions of the hamstrings, both being knee flexion or pulling your foot up towards your butt, or hip extension, bringing the hips forward. So it's a great accessory movement for both squats and deadlifts, just depending on what your weak points are. I typically have people work them until they can do sets of 20. Sometimes it's like 2 reps is all they can get when they first start.
Yeah.
Their hamstrings cramp up and they feel like they're gonna die.
That's when I first have new people using it a lot of time, we'll use like a band to help assist getting them up.
So one of the questions I had yesterday was talking about shoulders, working out your shoulders maybe for a bench only guy. Should they incorporate their shoulders in on like a bench day, or should they do it on a separate day? What are your thoughts, Jeff?
My thoughts?
Yeah, from your impressive
Your
4K
thoughts.
video.
Your thoughts. Unless you were gonna
Well,
give
you know,
us someone
'cause-
else's
well,
thoughts.
so I'm such a good bench presser. Generally speaking, I try to do shoulders on a whole separate day because I'm already going to be taxing my shoulder. I mean, I'll do a little bit of front loading going into my bench press by doing a little bit of shoulders that same day. But if I really want to do my shoulders, for me, I generally do shoulders the same day as I'm doing my overhead day. Like when I'm doing my overhead pressing, and I'm doing a lot more, because I have my bench day, but then I also have an overhead day. So I'll generally focus a lot more on the shoulder itself on my overhead day than I will on my bench day. I'll just use the shoulders to kind of warm up my shoulders, kind of loosen everything up to jump into that benching. But I generally do a lot more focused on my shoulders and my traps and stuff on a specific overhead day.
So how many days in between would you do a shoulder day and a pressing day?
I generally at least have 2 days in between.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's kind of my rule of thumb
Yeah.
as
So
well.
typically what I do is about 2 days.
What do you do, Josh?
Well, I do, I don't know, days or anything like that. I do days that I
Front
jog
raises.
outside, and I do days that
Side
I watch
raises.
YouTube.
All right, so Alyssa Green has a question, and this is like a really long question, so you have to bear with me. Will you be talking about mobility, flexibility? How important would you rate it? Frequency. Do you follow the same stretching routine every time? Do you believe targeting areas of engagement specifically with increased muscle mass? What are the preventative measures to protect range of motion? For instance, building chest shoulder strength, but still be able to straighten the arm, touch your fingers behind your back. I can't touch my fucking back. With high mass building phase, would there be more mobility training during that period versus other training? Sorry for too many of the, been analyzing yoga and CrossFit for the past year, and these are some of the questions you might have a good platform to ask.
All right. So speaking of
If
yoga
not,
and
delete the
CrossFit,
post. If I would have read the whole thing, I would have deleted it.
I can touch on some of this. You can do the yoga and CrossFit since clearly expert.
Listen. It is a chore to wipe my own ass, right?
Fair enough.
So
I think there's a Cali Muscle video
Yeah.
to watch with some
I think that's
tips.
a personal problem, though.
To talk about flexibility and mobility, like I'm probably the worst person to ask this question. I mean, to scratch the back of my head is tough. So I can't imagine,
That's fair.
we're working on flexibility.
I can cover some of this. You want to do something?
I try to do my flexibility, like, because I did yoga for a long time. And
Right.
for me, I
Can
still
you
try to.
do this.
No, I can't do a cat time. But I still work a lot on my flexibility, my mobility. But even when I was leaner, even when I was smaller, I've always had horrible upper body mobility. And so I believe a lot more in the mobility of my upper body versus the flexibility. I don't necessarily worry so much about my flexibility in my upper body, just about that mobility, like getting into a rack position for a front squat or for doing an overhead press. I mean, that's a lot of work for me. And I remember there was a time when I got so caught up in the just trying to get massive that I stopped doing any mobility work, trying to get any of that functional movement, functional range of motion, which really hindered me as an athlete, made me a lot weaker in the long run. And so for me, personally doing overhead pressing and all that stuff, I spent a lot more time doing the mobility work to try to really loosen that all up. There's a few stretches and mobility things that I'll do every day to just try to break up that tissue and try to keep building up that mobility. But generally, it's still a targeted thing. Like I have a targeted area that I'm trying to work on, and if I have a certain area that's a little bit more sore than another area, then I'll do that targeted mobility and really focus on, grinding out that one spot or, making it looser in that one area. It's, as you get older, you spend a little bit more time working on, for me, a little bit more time warming up and a little bit more time, like I did Angie one time, which is a CrossFit one, which is 100, it's 100 pull-ups, 100 push-ups, 100 squats, and 100 sit-ups.
It sounds so bad when you say I did
Yeah.
Angie.
Oh man, I did it.
Yeah.
Hey, the four of us did Angie.
But I after I did that, like my elbow was just thrashed for like the next week.
Yeah.
Doing 100 pull-ups at 300 pounds kind of wears out your shoulder or your elbow joint a little bit.
That's where
So
I train my common sense muscle. And don't try.
So it takes. I mean, it took me a little bit of time to rehab from that, and I spent time working on that focused mobility and trying to get that shoulder strength or that elbow strength back up, and working on making sure I warm up efficiently for doing these. If I'm going to do a crazy WOD or if I'm going to do heavy strongman training or what I'm going to do, I'll spend a little bit more time warming up than just being like when I was younger, and it's like warm-ups are for losers. I'm going to go lift stuff. I'm not a baby. Come on.
I know
So-
a downfall for me is I only really do mobility stuff or kind of like pre-injury type work when I'm hurt.
Right.
So once I start feeling like a nagging injury come on, that's when I start taking all that seriously. And then kind of once everything goes away, I feel like Superman again. I'm like, well, I'll wait.
Yeah.
I don't got time to sit around and roll on a foam roller.
I have-
go.
I have a lot of mixed emotions for mobility work, and I end up doing a lot of this because I train, not just competitive lifters. I have a lot of regular people with a lot of regular people issues in the shoulders, back,
Right.
knees, hips, usually some kind of a hip dysfunction. And so I guess I'll go through your 17 questions as one question in order. We'll be talking about mobility and flexibility. Yes. How important would you rate it? It depends. I think
probably need to go
no,
through.
this will go faster than you think. I have a point. I had his 10 minutes to think about what I was going to say.
You're welcome.
Mobility and flexibility are two different things, and they are differently important for different people. I think a lot of times right now people are putting way too much emphasis on getting mobile and getting flexible. Women get told all this bullshit about needing to be Gumby and pull your hands together behind your back.
Well, let's be honest.
Well,
the feet
but-
behind the head.
Feet behind the head.
That's important.
Completely different stretch. But flexibility without stability is useless.
Mm-hmm.
Like there is no point in just being able to arbitrarily bend yourself into a pretzel.
Right.
And that is not a viable fitness goal. Mobility is the ability to get into, the positions you need to train through a safe and effective range of motion while doing your movements. And I think that knowing what your limitations are and very specifically addressing what those are before going and training a movement is important. But there's a difference between that and spending 45 minutes stretching yourself around on the floor. And so I think what you have to do is figure out what your goal is, first of all. What movements are you trying to perform more efficiently? And then figure out what is causing you not to be able to get through that full range of motion in a very efficient way. And once you figure out what that is, you address it with your mobility work, but it should be, 5-10 minutes of something that you do before you train that movement. And you should always plug that newfound range of motion into a compound movement. And if you do that regularly enough, training through that full range of motion will maintain your flexibility. I don't think people just become inflexible. I think their body adapts to the ranges of motion that they perform the most. So if you squat, to depth, then your mobility will allow you to squat to depth, and that will be the amount of flexibility that you have. Over and above that, being more flexible and more limber is not going to serve you in a performance way because you're just going to set yourself up for injury because you don't have any of that tension in your body.
Well, and I think I think that you're right though in that. What is it that your goal is?
Mm-hmm.
Like if your goal is to be able to run around doing like parkour or some crazy crap or something, you might need a little bit more of that flexibility because you're going to be, if when Adrian starts doing his pole dancing routine, he's going to need more flexibility to get into those splits while he's on the pole.
Right.
But for a guy who's trying to lift a lot of weight, or guy or gal that's trying to lift a lot of weight, or trying to be a little bit more like, okay, I'm going to be a power lifter. Mm-hmm. You're not necessarily going to be able to do the splits. Like that's not a necessity.
And it's probably a detriment to you if you're trying to squat a lot of weight. You don't want to be that flexible. And so it comes down to figuring out what the goal is. Whether or not you're trying to put on muscle is completely irrelevant with regard to your flexibility. More muscle doesn't mean that you're less flexible. Mm-hmm. More muscle that's not continuously and regularly put through a full range of motion will make you less flexible.
Or less mobile.
Or less mobile, yeah. If you sit in a desk all day and this is your posture, your body has perfectly adapted to the stimulus that you've given it for 8+ hours per day. If you're on your feet, if you're up and down, if you're into a full squat, if you're pressing things overhead, if you're pressing things away from you, pulling things off of the ground, your body will adapt to the ranges of motion that you introduce it to.
Right.
And it will maintain those as long as you are regularly doing those movements.
All right, y'all, we've talked way too long. We're going over time. Let's check up on YouTube here real quick. I guess we got a video we're going to watch.
We're going to watch a rock fall on a dude.
So this is the boulder that falls on the strongman as he's trying to put it up on the apparatus, and he folds in half.
Putting it on the ring.
Before you hit play.
Before I hit play,
Right.
I totally forgot to put the Matt Phelps video into the video for the podcast last week, yesterday.
Real quick, Jeff, too, can you kind of let us know, like, he's got a huge boulder.
So
what kind of
this
weight
is-
are we talking about?
Got big balls on his chest.
Well, this is a it looks to be about a 20-inch Atlas stone in the diameter.
In case I
So
forget.
it's
Gosh,
roughly
that
going to be like between 350 and 400 pounds there
Jeez.
that he's trying to pick up on his lap and then lift up onto a ring. The ring's only about this big. It's a little teeny platform you're putting it on.
So if it rolls off of there, then he's got to pick it up again.
Right.
All
You
right.
have to try to, but it's got a divot in it because of the way the ring is. So when you get it up there, it'll just kind of fall right into that position. But if you like move it, like throw it over it or something, you're gonna have to get it back.
So this is
Kind
a
of
pretty
lift it up.
typical.
Right.
All right.
Onto the rings isn't as typical because it's a little bit more dangerous and stuff, and it's to set up that apparatus for the rings is a little bit harder to transport.
How
So
tall
you're-
of a platform is this?
this looks to be about 53, 52. And generally speaking, you're going to load onto either over a yoke bar or onto a platform. The rings you don't see as much unless you get to certain contact.
seriously, every time I watch this, my stomach turns.
Yeah.
So, did that happen because he was up on his tippy toes and
Well, you're
leaning in too
gonna
much?
get on your toes to get up that stone. That's
Okay.
to get the full extension to get that stone up there. But when he gets it up to that top level, which is generally what most people are gonna do, is once you're balanced there with it on your chest, what I would do is try to switch my hands down and just finish the push to finish getting it up there. Because you're gonna get it up there so far, and you're not gonna be able to get enough extension to get it up that last little bit. So once you've got it kind of balanced here, switch that grip and just finish the push through to get it to sit right in that position. Because that's what's happening is it extends so much, trying to get it up there so much that it's finally that it just can't handle the strain.
So did he survive this?
Yeah, he. As the things that I read about him, he came back from it. You know, he's back into competing, back into training and stuff. I mean, he came back from it. He didn't die or, end up completely decimated and paralyzed forever.
Yeah.
And I've seen that happen in meets, not just with the stones. Like I've seen guys do it with the axle.
Yeah.
Like I saw a guy at Nationals one year. He brought the axle up, and when he caught it here, it just bent him backwards, so his knees just popped forward and stuff. And it's
Dangerous shit.
I need to time this podcast with my peeing schedule way better.
I know that's
I feel like the last 2 episodes, I've had to pee for 40 minutes.
All right, Josh, how do they get a hold of us?
Let's finish. Remember, check us out at chalktalk.tv. Let's see, you can find us on Facebook, Chalk Talk, or Instagram and newly Twitter at ChalkTalk503. Also, find us on iTunes. We are now on there. Comment, subscribe, let them know you guys are listening.
Leave us a like rating.
Leave
That
a
helps the
rating.
show.
That would be great.
We are also now on Stitcher. For those of you who are not
Boom.
on any Apple
There we
device,
go.
we are
Boom.
cross-platform.
Nasty.
We are taking over the world.
There it is.
Stitcher is available on Android and on the iStore. What's that called? App Store? iTunes App Store.
iTunes.
the iStore.
And we can put music at the end of this one? Or?
We can.
All right, so hey, music that we're going to have at the end is brought to you by Burn the Stage.
Not necessarily.
All right, well, it's going to be Burn the Stage. Check them out on Facebook. They're going to be touring in LA the month of June. They haven't released all their stops yet, but check them out, Facebook or Reverb Nation. You can hear some of their music. Otherwise, I think we're good to go.
Jeff, how do we get a hold of you?
At Ragnavok, basically on any platform, just RAGNAVOK.
Josh?
Hit me up.
Josh, where are you at?
At JLarson2498 on Twitter, Larson2498 on Instagram.
Dick.
Someone took it.
At Jaron Carriage on everything. JeronKerridge. Elemental PXYZ.
Yeah, and you can find me at Alpha Project, www.alphaprojecttraining.org.
That is it.
That's it.
Boom.
All right.
Suck it.
Doing us the thoughts of sinking into your